Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Wednesday, the Change Leadership episode, this week with Sara Caldwell. Hey, Sara, welcome back.
Hi. Happy what I sometimes call 14th Monday.
14th Monday. There you go. All right. So, of course, we're going to talk about change. So tell us one of those stories, Sara, a story of a change process you were involved with. And as you go through that, as you describe what was happening during that process, highlight for us the tools, the tips, the tricks, and the techniques you learned back then that you still apply today.
So I'm going to go back to the original example I had at the beginning of this series related to where I first started with my Agile journey, where we're going underneath an Agile transformation. And as I was learning and growing, and I had a number of really great Agile coaches, and we talk about how vision is a dream with a direction, and vision helps us be able to change, and vision, helps us with like motivation and getting connected to the work that we're doing. And I was again drinking the Kool-Aid, all in, ready to have this vision. And so I went to my office and I spent hours thinking about what our team's vision could be related to this Agile transformation, this change, this working in a new way, how we're all coming together as a unit. And I spent hours in my office, and I think I came up with a pretty good vision, in my opinion. And then I went around and I socialized it. I met with everyone on the teams and said, "Hey, this is our vision. Here's our vision. Look, it's even in color and it's very pretty. Can we all commit and agree to this?" And if you aren't laughing by now, maybe you should be, because essentially what I was doing was command and controlling a vision. I was command and controlling a dream. I was saying, this is how you should be acting. And, it really wasn't enabling our self-organizing teams to have input into how that they were working, which I think is, it's obviously an accidental mistake. I had all the good intentions there, but I was creating a vision a solo act. And when it's the team's rally cry, they weren't in that rally cry. It was what I thought we should be doing. And if I had to do it all over again, and I have an opportunity to do it all over again often, is I like to leverage a lot of what our product owners do and and with the help of our user experience folks, is create some focus groups. From a Scrum mastering standpoint, that can be some of your retros, that can be some casual conversations, that can be some one-on-ones. And those one-on-ones can have some like lightweight interview questions. What are some things that you value? What do you want us to be doing? What do you want us to be saying? Remember the future activity, like almost any.
So you're kind of extracting like pieces of the vision by having these multiple conversations with the team and team members.
Exactly. Like I'm a big fan of Dave Snowden. I have a little bit of a brain crush on him. And I really love some of his sense-making tools and techniques where you're essentially collecting stories we tell ourselves, and then identifying patterns and themes based upon those stories. And those lightweight interviews, those focus groups, those retros help feed that basically kind of heat map of sorts that you're creating. And that can ultimately lead into a vision that they create for themselves. So you just kind of end up being maybe the collector, consolidator, analysis, wordsmither. But it's really the team, like you're pulling their voice and their words into this vision. So it becomes less about getting buy-in, which is what I was doing, right? Like I created something in my office and then tried to get buy-in, which I find is not as effective as co-creating, where people feel as though they're part of the change. They are the change. They are influencing the change. And ultimately, I think that leads to a quicker change and also more successful change, because it's not being passed to them. They're being able to contribute.
Well, one of the key things for me in this story is the recognition that no matter how good a vision we might be able to create, it's still not there vision, right? Like, and when we do this, yeah, and I really like that you referred to the techniques that product owners and user experience people use, right? We are there to hear what the people who are actually actors in the change want the change to be, right? Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have a direction. Of course, we might still have a direction, like overall agile adoption because of X, Y, and Z, fill in the strategic or goal, organizational goals that you might have. That direction is still there, but the way that we get there needs to be co-created with the people that actually need to change. And if we go back to the concept of project management, which we were talking about, it is so counterintuitive to someone with a project management background that actually the role of the project manager in this context is to help the people doing the work to define the work that needs to be done, instead of documenting and communicating that work, which is usually what project managers end up doing themselves. What did you learn about this aspect of collecting the narratives or stories, as you called it, from the teams through the one-on-ones, the retrospectives, and other means? Like, what are some of the key tips you can share with us about that aspect of collecting those different stories from the team members?
I was on mute. I had to clear my throat. Tips on how to show up, or like show up in the sessions that I ran, or what specifically?
So when we go and we talk to teams, so let's say we are in a retrospective, right? And when we are in a retrospective, there's maybe a structure, there's a set of questions. Like, what are some of the concrete things that you think have helped you to really be able to extract, to surface those voices from the team?
Yeah, great question. It's a lot of, I really pull from my anthropological background. I studied anthropology as a minor in school, and it's really about, while you are a part of the system team, you're more observing and getting curious and not asking leading questions. So you're just there to bear witness to what is happening and encouraging people to think and draw their own thoughts, because oftentimes people don't spend a lot of time thinking about the things that you're going to be asking them for, like, the value, what they value in work and what they value as a whole. And so getting curious, being vulnerable yourself, creating space for them to really share what matters to them is so important. And how you show up to that is just as important, because if you show up and you're just running through a list of questions, and you're asking like, yeah, but don't you think type of tone, you're likely not going to get people's truest thoughts here. Another thing that I think is important, when we're thinking about system dynamics, is, do people feel safe to share what they really feel? If they feel as though you're going to use that, like to report it to a leader or use it against them, they might hold their cards closer to their chest. So if you're working in a place where you may feel like there's a lot of bureaucracy and that data is being used against teams, you can work to create these sorts of conversations in a more autonomous way. So maybe through some surveys. I recommend using ChatGPT to ensure that these surveys are not leading and that you're not falling into some of the traps related to how interview or how survey questions are structured.
So one important aspect of what you said is that the way we show up is very important, and the type of questions we ask is very important, whether it is face-to-face or through a survey. And there's a lot of research out there on how to ask questions that elicit people to share something that is within them rather than to confirm our biases, which is quite easy to do with leading questions. That was a great story. Thank you for sharing that, Sara.
Thank you.
Leading change is one of the core skills we must acquire, but it is only one of the steps towards our success as Scrum Masters. Tomorrow, on Success Thursday, we will talk about how to define success for the Scrum Master role. We'll cover tips on how to measure your way to that position, and most importantly, how to develop that focus on continuous improvement that is as important for Scrum Masters as it is for teams. See you tomorrow. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.